The Allied leaders were arguing their way over the whole future of the German people. Under their hands, the map of Europe was drawn and redrawn again. At last, after more than 3 months of discussion, they presented the terms of their treaty to the Germans. Germany lost land in the east, the west, and the north. In the east, the most important of those losses was the wide strip of territory given to the newly independent Poland, separating East Prussia from the rest of Germany. While on the west, France took back the provinces of Alsace and Lorraine, and was also given the right to mine coal in the Saar, an area placed under League of Nations control for 15 years. To protect France, Germany was forbidden to station soldiers in the Rhineland, an area which was to be occupied by Allied troops until 1935. It was not only the loss of territory which Germany resented, but also the fact that Czechoslovakia and Poland now contained large numbers of Germans. And as if to add insult to injury, the treaty forbade German-speaking Austria to unite with Germany. Her fortifications were to be destroyed. Her army was to be reduced to 100,000 men. No air force, no submarines, and to accept blame for starting the war and pay reparations. So, in the high summer of 1919, the German delegates were brought to the Great Hall of Mirrors at Versailles to sign the peace treaty. It was a compromise peace that satisfied not even one single Allied leader, and predictably the Germans loathed it.
Líderes de las potencias aliadas y asociadas, este tratado es simplemente una continuación de la guerra.
Hable más alto, aquí no le oímos.
Una continuación de la guerra por otras vías. Los pagos de reparación que exigen arruinarán a Alemania. No tendremos ni siquiera armada ni ejército para poder defendernos. Nos quedamos sin colonias y entregamos las minas de carbón a los polacos y a los franceses. Nos obligan a aceptar la responsabilidad de la guerra y exigen que entreguemos a nuestros héroes para que sean juzgados como criminales. Presidente Wilson, si Alemania abandonó las armas fue porque estaba de acuerdo con los principios de sus 14 puntos, pero el tratado que nos presentan viola todos y cada uno de esos puntos. Señor, creo que no hace falta que le recuerde que los ejércitos alemanes se retiraron sin haber sido derrotados. ¿Pueden decirme dónde está su paz? Hemos sido traicionados. Conocemos el odio que nos tienen aquí, lo conocemos bien. Este documento lo demuestra. Nos están exigiendo que digamos que nosotros y solo nosotros somos culpables de haber provocado esta guerra. Y tal confesión no saldrá jamás de mis labios.
¿Qué le había dicho? La vieja Alemania aún está ahí.
Esta guerra ha supuesto uno de los mayores crímenes contra la humanidad que cualquier nación que pretenda llamarse civilizada haya cometido jamás. Alemania no solo la inició, sino que es responsable. La única responsable de esta cruel guerra en la que tanta gente ha muerto. Justicia es lo que están pidiendo. Y justicia es lo que estamos dándoles. El tratado puede ser aceptado y también rechazado. Contesten. ¿Están dispuestos a firmar?
Sometidos a una imperiosa fuerza, pero sin abandonar por ello nuestra postura.
¿Puede hablar más alto? No le oigo bien.
Esto es vergonzoso. Ante la increíble injusticia de las condiciones,
¡Hable más alto!
el gobierno de Alemania declara que está dispuesto a firmar.
The real problem of World War I, Germany's big sin, was to have emerged late in the organization of Europe. They only became a consolidated country after the Franco-Prussian War in 1871, I think it was. And Bismarck was the chancellor, and he managed to pull all the dozens and dozens of little German sovereign states together into one consolidated German state in 1871, and thereafter they began to grow rapidly and became the dominant power on the continent of Europe, which made Britain very nervous because Germany started to outproduce them and started to take their markets away, and Britain felt that they had to cut this new rival down to size. And then there was France, who had her own grievances against Germany, and Russia, who had her own grievances against Germany. So Germany, as I say, Germany's great sin was to have been too successful as a nation state, and they all essentially ganged up and found a pretext for war and attacked Germany. Germany was the victim of World War I, not the perpetrator of it.
Absolutely, and when a victim like that is hung with a wreath called the Treaty of Versailles, the most cruel document I have ever seen, what do you expect is going to happen but another war? I mean, that was literally set up from the beginning.
The Germans argued that the Germany to which they were returning had suffered poverty and unemployment in the years since the war, and couldn't afford the vast sums demanded by the Allies. But these arguments didn't impress the Allies, who fixed a sum of £6,600 million for the Germans to pay. That sum would have to be paid in goods as well as money. Most would come from here in the Ruhr, the industrial heart of Germany. But at the end of 1922, the Germans fell behind with their payments, and Raymond Poincaré, the new French Prime Minister, decided to act. If Germany wouldn't pay in full and on the nail, then France would help herself. So on the 11th of January 1923, French and Belgian troops entered the Ruhr to force the Germans to pay up. There was, of course, after Versailles, no German army big enough to stop them. At first, the French believed that they could make the Germans work for them. But suddenly, German politicians and people were united in a common cause: hatred of the French. And huge protest meetings were held all over Germany. Their attitude towards the Germans in the Ruhr began to harden. They tried to cut the Ruhr off from the rest of the country. German visitors were searched as if they were entering a foreign land. (1923) was disastrous for Germany. In that year, the great German inflation reached its peak. For some time, the value of the mark had been dropping. As the value of the notes decreased, so the amount of notes needed to buy things grew. Banks became more and more hard-pressed to meet the ever-increasing demand for paper money. For their customers, suitcases replaced wallets. As Germany slid towards disaster, Gustav Stresemann was appointed Chancellor. The loss of production in the Ruhr was making inflation even worse, and Stresemann realized that the only way to help the economy back to normal was to call off resistance there and get production going again. The government also announced that Germany would resume the payment of reparations. It was the only possible way of getting the French out. But to the nationalists, it looked like yet another pathetic surrender to Germany's enemies. General Ludendorff, who had never accepted that Germany had been defeated, gave his support to Adolf Hitler, the leader of the new National Socialist Party.